I was like, oh, that's what it's like working for Erik Nagel. It's just like the fun passive aggressive manager. It's like, I guess we're starting this a little later. I'm like, ooh. It's like,
Yeah. So,
so,
well,
so
better
how
than
you been?
nothing at all.
But you've been good. You've been busy, right?
Very busy.
I
It
think you're
is,
one of the few people in the world that is busy.
dude. My work has increased tenfold since the quarantine started. It has been, I'll just say it's been a nightmare. you know, working around the clock, all hours, sleeping maybe 3 hours a day. Like I'm going to bed
Jeez.
at 6, 7 in the morning, waking up at 10, and doing it all over again.
What's made it so much busier? Like just that other people can't work, so you're doing all the jobs.
Well, I'm not doing. No, everybody's at least everybody at Compound is able to do
Right.
what they can do. Some are still in the city, others are in different places because of the quarantine. But we launched new apps, new video server. We have a new financial company that's handling all the subscription stuff. And just like anything, when you roll out something new, there's always problems, no matter what company you are. So right now, it's just Keith and myself handling everything. So you got two guys handling this, this huge subscriber base for every kind of question and query or complaint that they want, and then on the other side of it, because of the quarantine, everybody's fucking moody and emo,
Yes.
and then times 10 because of all of this stuff. So the slightest little thing goes wrong and it's the end of the world for them, and they're blogging like teenage girls where they're just saying like, I can't live like this, and it's like, calm the fuck down.
Oh, it's amazing.
Oh, can we curse on this? Or?
What's wonderful about Compound is that you guys are open and any fan has access to you guys. What's terrible about Compound is that fans have access to you at any time. Same thing.
Yeah.
Like they get so mad about things they don't understand. Like I would
Oh yeah.
never complain about technical things. I can barely get this going. I'm happy I learned how to do Zoom, but I would never complain about why the app's doing this or that. They don't even know what they're saying. They're just
We don't
getting mad at a thing.
we don't mind, like, with anything. I mean, you don't mind when people say, hey, I'm having this download issue, or hey, this video is not working, or hey, that's fine, all good. But when stuff is more serious, like for some reason it's not letting me subscribe via Apple Pay or PayPal or something like that, or if you're saying, hey, I've been trying to do this and I'm seem to be the only one that has this technical problem, it's like, okay, well, we can't do tech support over Twitter and social media. You can't do the back and forth. They give them an email or to whatever department, said, send it here. I'll tell them, whoever's handling it, that specific thing, like, hey, look for this person. This is the issue. I don't know what email they're coming from, but you'll find the name and what have you. And then that's not good. And it's like, no, because nobody answers my emails right away, so I'm going to do it here. It's like, cool, I'm not going to answer it here either. So what do you got? You're trying to do the best you can, but dude, come on, it's two guys and this company here, and nobody's in the same room at any point. Like if we were all in the office, it would be a lot easier to get all this stuff done, but we're not. So
Like
we're
the
doing the
first
best
day
we can with it.
Kumia was in the compound, people were complaining that it wasn't seamless. It's like it's Drew running it by himself, basically, in
Yeah.
a new area with two people who don't really know what they're doing in there. Anyway, it's a learning curve. To me, it was, I don't know, it felt better with them being in that house. It made me feel like they're in this too. When you're watching some shows and they look like, the news people look like they're okay, and you're the one worrying. But seeing Ant in his house and Dave, and knowing Dave and Drew have to live there with him, you're like, oh, this is real. But they're also laughing and making me feel good. So how could you complain about that? Like they're giving you live content daily. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, that's the other thing too. When look, the quality of like late night programming and even daytime talk shows have shit the bed because everybody's just doing it from home and they're doing the best they can with it. Um, but you don't see people screaming all the time about, the Tonight Show or Jimmy Kimmel and saying it's like, oh, he's always in the living room. Why isn't he doing this? They're also not live. None of them are live. So they get to pre-record their things, send it to other people, production houses and people who are working for their staff to put all this shit together and make it look nice for when it goes out at night and when it goes out on social media and YouTube and all that stuff. This is live. Turn it on and hope for the best, And then after it's done, any live program does not show up immediately on demand. If you're watching, like, sports are a bad example because they don't put sports on demand like that. But if you were watching presidential debates, right? The second they're done, that whole debate thing is not showing up online within half an hour.
No, there might be highlights, but yeah, the whole
Yeah,
thing.
they have highlights,
The
but they
Grammy
also,
Awards isn't just there. You have to wait a little while to see the whole thing on Hulu or wherever you're gonna watch it.
yeah, even the pre-recorded TV shows are, um, like if you watch Better Call Saul, right? It's not on demand. It's like, oh, it just aired, and you go look on demand. It's not there. They wait a day because it's got to go through all the time zones and stuff, and then it shows up the next day, so it doesn't affect the actual TV ratings for all that stuff. That doesn't affect us because we don't have those kind of rating systems. But it takes some time. Now, I understand if it's like 2 hours after the show and it's not up there, then yeah, you can say, "What the fuck's going on?" But it's a brand new system. They don't do it exactly as the other one did. We're still ironing that out. We just put in some new stuff. I don't know why we're doing tech complaining on your show. This is horrible. Nobody wants to listen to this.
No, weirdly enough, when
into
I've talked to some people, they do want to. A lot of people that listen to my thing are people from Compound or become fans of mine, and they
Yeah.
kind of want that. So
You don't have fans. What are you talking about?
I said the couple fans I had.
But everything's a learning curve, and this new system, we've been really fast with changing any kind of issues or problems or whatever was going on. Whenever we see something like, all right, this is more than a handful of people, this is an actual issue, we've been pretty fast, and the new company has been pretty fast to correct these things. Some things are coming in time because there's other things that are higher priority, but give it some time. You'll have all the stuff that you want, and then some. I said then 3 times, but yeah, then some.
3 thens is perfect. If you went 4, it would have been too much. But 3
Right.
thens is perfect.
I'm
I like
looking this way
how
now.
watching live shows is better. To me, it's easier now to see what the live shows are. Going through that, I watch In Hot Water basically, unless I'm working. Now, I had to take a part-time job every morning at 9:00, and I like that I can just easily click on it. The app works easier on my Roku now than it did before. But and I feel better about it now because now I'm actually paying for it. And before I was using a password that Gino gave me. But but once the new app kicked in, I'm like, crap, now I got to pay for it, which I'm happy to because I'm watching it a lot. I never watched it before. My brother did. My brother's been a fan of Opie and Anthony since they were in Boston because he was going to school at Bentley, which is right near Boston.
Right.
And he was listening to them. He moved back to Connecticut, was working in New York when they moved to New York. He's been listening. Wherever Anthony's gone, he's listened to Anthony forever. He brought me to Compound with him one time because he wanted to watch Anthony at the studio. And that's when Anthony went to rehab, and he didn't know that when he got the ticket or whatever, he got to come in. So he saw Soder fill in. And I was happy because I knew Dan, but my brother was like, shit, the one time I finally get to see Anthony Cumia. So when I got a chance to come in with Steve Halligan bringing me on as a guest with him to see Anthony, my brother was more excited than I was. I didn't know the show. But then the second I got on, I was just like, oh, this is exactly the kind of comedy, this whole network that's me. You know what I mean? So now my brother finally can be jealous of me because he's like, rich and successful and does things, and I had nothing. But now I've met Anthony, so I win. So it's nice.
So if your brother's rich and successful and does things, how come you're not getting a piece of that?
Well, because it's his shit.
That doesn't matter.
I mean, if I needed it, he could. But he works his own. He's worked very hard. He had me as an older example to go, oh, don't be that, and then work hard. You know what I mean?
So then he's got to credit his work ethic and success to you because it's like, I learned not to be you. Here's a check.
Right, but I haven't learned that being me stinks yet. I have like a couple more years, and then I'm
the thing. Well, this popped. Hold on a second. But he has. That's the thing.
I don't know if he has because now I think he
has. He's much more successful than you.
Right, but he also loves. He's also a bit jealous that I'm on here. So maybe he's like, damn it. So it's like the fact that I got to sit with Cumia that many times and be in Hot Water and be on these different shows. He's like, oh, wow, you get to meet these people. I think in a weird way, I'm winning for the first time. So don't fucking blow this for me. Like, I'm doing well. I finally have something.
That's pretty funny.
It's working. Yeah, and what I like about now quarantine is that I can podcast on weekends. This was always for comics. You can't do it in the weekends because everybody's too busy traveling around. I had Gino on last Saturday. I had Larry Bea on Sunday, which, by the way, Larry was very interesting because he doesn't realize that you should sit still when you're doing it, and he just walked around his house for an hour holding his phone doing it. It was very dizzying.
Larry has ADD issues.
Yes.
I like Larry. He's a very nice person. He's funny, but he doesn't. He's like a shark. If he stops moving, I think he just dies.
I was worried about him the most. I said that to him because he's such a social goddamn butterfly. I'm like, how
Right.
are you going to live? He's out there and he's staying with white people in Greenwich, and he's just walking the streets and hitting on women still from 6 feet away.
Staying
Yeah,
with
I
white
know.
people.
Believe me,
Yeah.
I've watched the videos of him and your fans. It's like Jim Stansel and Mead and all these people. He just stays in their homes.
He's doing a reverse the ref. You know, he's the Dennis Leary role, and everybody's stuck in the house there arguing.
But him and I were talking about, and with Gino, I talked about it. The coolest moment for all three of us being ever at Compound at all is getting to sit in the big boy chair. And you get to sit in the big boy chair when you do your show.
Right.
It's just like, it really is a cool feeling to do that. And Larry's like, well, I learned everything by watching, studying under Anthony Cumia. I'm like, you learned to have 87 guests on your fucking show from Anthony Cumia.
Larry's thing.
He has so many guests. Like, how do they even fit in there? It's madness.
Larry's show, when he Larry's not an official Compound show.
No, but he uses the studio.
He uses the facility for his show. He used to ask me the first few weeks, he's like, could you take notes? Could you tell me what I need to do better? And so I would give him tips. I was like, all right, you got to do this, change this, pay attention to that. And I said, you got to get rid of all these guests. And then it was just like a spite thing. Like every week there was more and more guests. It started with the panel to the back part of the studio to where the crowd sits to the couch. Like it was filling up. And I said, we don't have enough mics for 19 people, and you need to stop letting everybody else talk.
Yeah, I mean, he barely talks on the show. I mean,
he on the last couple of shows before the quarantine, he actually was trimming it down and was doing better with it. And then we had to stop everything. So I just told him, it's like, remember this, look at those episodes. And he's been doing some on his own now. I think he's doing it all through Zoom or something like that.
Right, yeah. I actually checked before he came on. I checked out one of them for a little bit. It's not my cup of tea, but he's got a lot of energy. It's a lot of fun. But he's trying, every time he watches, and he kind of told me this on the podcast, every time he watches another show, he kind of almost tries to take an element from another show.
Right.
So he's got too much going on. Like, I'm going to try to watch videos. I'm going to try to have guests. I'm going to try to have porn stars. I'm going to try to have rappers. I'm going to try to talk about the news. It's just like, you got to focus on one thing. But then again, I guess that's the show, like his ADD and getting loud, whatever that means. I think that means getting high, right? Isn't that?
I don't know.
The kids say loud. Doesn't loud mean weed?
There's also a song, Let's Get Live? I thought it was Let's Get Loud. Let's Get Loud.
I don't think he knows that song. He's
I don't know.
78 years old.
Yeah,
he's like Morgan Freeman.
You can't tell because they don't age like that.
No, Larry's don't. I know a lot of Larry's.
Larry's do not age.
Larry's
like that.
Don't age at all.
No, but Larry looks like he's still like in his early 30s. You know, really just 8 years into doing comedy, and he's been around forever. Everybody knows him.
Yeah, I knew him when I started. Like, it's funny, the people on your network were, when I first started and got to go to like do Greenwich Village spots and things like that, I'd be on the same show as Chrissy Mayer and Aaron Berg's wife and Larry, you know, and even Gino used to come to Connecticut a lot and perform. So it's like all the people that I was performing with going, oh, they're also not doing well like me. And then I see the network. I'm like, oh, they all landed here. I was like, that's cool. It's like, they were all comics that I just knew of. Like, oh, they also get the shit spots I do.
Yeah, we're the halfway house between success and failure, I guess.
No, you're the purgatory where you're allowed to find a new voice. I mean, Gino thrives in it. I mean, to me, he's perfect on that. And I talked about that. I love that show because the four of them are amazing together. But that show couldn't work anywhere else. It's the only place in the world that would allow them to do what they do.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine them being. It couldn't go on. I don't even think you can put it on YouTube. I mean, unless you're like every restriction possible. I mean,
no, you can. It's just you can't do like YouTube. It's not as strict as other platforms like Twitch or something, but YouTube has set standards. Like you can't have nudity, you can't have violence.
They have penises in almost every episode.
Not violence, but like threatening violence. You can't have that.
If they fuck pumpkins,
and then hardcore racism gets flagged a lot of the time too. Like you can get away with certain jokes and things like that, but when it's constant, sometimes you put clips up there. And I told them too within Hot Water there was some older stuff, and I said, oh, that I had to take the clip down. Why'd you have to take it down? I'm like, it kept getting flagged, dude.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? I'm like, I forgot what the content was, but I said the racial jokes in it's like, it's not going to fly. It's going to get the channel suspended. So because they flagged it on us. They took it. I was like, all right, it's down. That's what it is. And
I
then
also
yeah,
like that you called it hardcore racism because I've never really heard of softcore racism, but I like that term.
there is softcore racism, you know, in the context of a light-hearted joke
Right.
or something like that. That's kind of softcore. When it's hardcore is, well,
Oh,
it
I,
doesn't
yeah,
need
I
to be described, you know.
know.
But yeah,
It's
there's ways. It's all in how it's perceived.
what now? You're not that way. I mean, you have a show on Compound, but I watch that show, and there's no. Not that every show. I think people think that. I think people think the perception when people don't know it, they're like, "Oh, Anthony Kumi, it's got to be racist shows and craziness and all this." But there's so many different shows on there. Your show is totally different than you and Brian, who I didn't know about at all until I met him through watching your show and then getting to
Brian
be a guest
Johnson,
with
yeah.
him. Yeah, I love Brian. He was fun to be a guest on with, sitting there, both of us trying to figure out what Anthony was going to do. That's a good combination between the two of you, but that's not a show like any other one on Compound.
No, I worked pretty hard in the last couple of years of being there, where the perception of Compound used to be the old programming lineup, where you had Anthony's show, then you had Gavin McInnes, and you had Michael Malice, but who is not anywhere near that stuff, but he's politically charged, you
Right.
know. Um, so it just became like everybody thought it was this right wing conservative network, and things changed, things moved on, and no people went to other places, and then we were bringing in newer programming, and it's like you kind of have to change the image of this thing, because it was at the time when I got there when they started taking down anything that was leaning a step above or step beyond conservatism, where you were getting Alex Jones taken down, you were getting Steven Crowder, who was getting suspended from YouTube, you were getting I think Glenn Beck had something online that maybe his YouTube channel or something like that. And it was, if you were leaning anywhere this way, a lot of these left leaning, and not even liberal, I'm saying the step above that,
Right.
they were going for technicalities with wording on terms of service. Like you weren't really getting them on their thoughts and ideals and all that. You were getting them on technicalities for the terms of service, and then they were like, we got to suspend you, we're going to take your stuff offline because you violated the terms of service. And I was like, we can't fall into that trap, we can't be labeled, because we were getting close, I could see it was coming. I said, we got to change some things here, and we got to soften this a little bit. And you know, that's why we have Don Jameson on there, who I love, comedian from that metal show on VH1 for, I don't know, like 13 seasons. It was
Yeah,
on
I got to be
forever.
a guest on like 2 weeks ago, and that was super fun.
With Jim Florentine and Eddie Trunk. That show, we were trying to get Don on here for a while because he wanted to do something, but his schedule finally opened up where he could do it. He wasn't touring as heavy. So we got him on. Chrissy Mayer has a show on there, and because she was pretty beloved on In Hot Water as an occasional guest, doing all the characters and things like that. So she fit in pretty well. It's like, oh, we'll give her a shot, and you know, she's doing something completely different than the rest of the shows on there.
They're really finding their groove too. That show.
Yeah.
I've watched a couple older ones, and then what it is now, and they're really getting comfortable with that show. But it's that, once again, that's also something that I wouldn't normally. I'm not like a sex talk show person, but I enjoy what they're doing, and it is like it's fun that, like you're saying, it's nice that you can choose a different show. It's not like, oh, it's the same. It's Anthony, then a bunch of things like Anthony. It's not like that anymore. There's so many different things on there.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony and Dave, they do the political humor, and because a lot of it is so, when you try to say, oh, we're a news driven show, a lot of the news for the last, when was Trump elected? The end of 2016. So yeah, since 2017, the beginning of 2017, he's been the headline of everything. You know, every day he's been the headline of something, whether he did something or they're just trying to make something, whatever it is. So yeah, they talk a lot about that, but then they move on to dumb, sillier things. You know, it's pretty much what O&A would used to have been. Where you're talking about the new stuff, and then going on to goofy stuff, where you're watching videos of I don't know, people getting electrocuted by standing on top of a train, and even though that's horrific, it's still hilarious.
Yeah, I was on there. We watched Scooby Doo. Fuck.
Yeah, things
Yeah,
like that. You're still doing the dumb things, the silly things, all of that. And I think the image of the network has definitely changed in the last 2 years, which is what I was going for. Because I saw that Alex Jones stuff, and with Anthony doing the InfoWars fill in once a week, was like, it's just a matter of time. When that happened and then Steven Crowder happened, I was like, it's just a matter of time before somebody points the fingers at us. And we're behind a paywall where a lot of their other stuff wasn't. Like, they did have paywalls for certain things, but the stuff they were getting reported for were not behind a paywall. And yeah, it was kind of important to kind of change the perception of it, and I think for the better. I know
When
a
I
lot
was
of
a
people.
guest, when I got to be a guest on the first time, that was my fear. I thought, oh, Kumi is just conservative politics now. I don't know anything about that. But then when I was put down, they're like, no, just it's still comedy. And when I went on, I realized, oh, it's not that at all. But I had heard the rumor that he kind of went that route.
I think for a while he did, and it was during the years when I was still over at Sirius XM, and he was finding his footing too. Yeah, I think for a while he did. He was going there, but also he was one person at the time. He didn't have Artie, he didn't have Dave, so until the guests came in, you're one person. Look, say what you want about whatever everybody says or does. It's hard to do a show by yourself. It takes a lot of talent and a lot of skill to do a show by yourself. Even if you're just carrying it for about 20 minutes to half an hour before your first guest comes in or your guests come in, and then you can write out the show with other people. It's hard, a lot harder than people think to do that. So at one point, man, I think he was going a little heavy with the politics, but it was something to talk about. It was filling time, and it's stuff he knew about. And now, it's a little bit more relaxed atmosphere, and he's got Dave and great people coming in and out. And even if they don't have guests on there, the two of them can, do great riffing back and forth. And yeah, you soften, you change a little bit. You can't stay the same all the time. You try different things. Oh, that didn't work. Well, let's go this way. Let's go that way. And that's what he did. And I think they're really killing it in the last several months, especially during the quarantine.
Yeah.
Just Dave and Anthony, they're doing an amazing job just being by themselves, whether a guest is there or not.
And I think it's making Anthony more personable. I get not that he wasn't that way, but seeing him in his home, seeing when this is going on, seeing the kind of guy person, like, you're hearing more about. Not that he didn't share his life, but it feels more real now in the last couple months. The fact that we got to see the movie theater and see them watch Twister the other day, which was very, very funny. I like how people complain that wasn't live. It's like, what the fuck? Like, sorry, them doing Mystery Science Theater 3000 isn't live.
Yeah, I saw some of those complaints too. They're like, I'm paying. It's like, no, you're not. You're. I understand what you subscribe for. I get it, but it's not full dictatorship on that you determine everything that's going on. I saw a few people saying, why wasn't this live? I can't find. There was no live feed. All the social media posted that saying, here it is, it's on demand, go and get it here.
Right.
There was a little hiccup on the something with publishing, so it took a little bit before it got up there, but it got up there. I saw the complaints about it. Why wasn't it live? Because it wasn't. They decided to tape it one night, and you got this. It's just as good.
You're also not going anywhere. You're home. You're stuck home. You have all the time in the world to watch it. I mean, it's different in the old day, but now that we're all just stuck. I know you want it right now because you planned your day, but in an hour, you're still doing nothing. You can watch it then. I watched it this morning. I didn't worry about if it was on Thursday or not. Like, I go, I'll watch that. Now, my only complaint was that I couldn't really hear the movie Twister that much, but that didn't matter because they were so funny. It didn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And look, you gotta make certain concessions because in order to do that kind of thing, you can't have the full quality of the movie and the audio and all this stuff. Everyone just expects everything to be awesome all the time and give me everything exactly when I want it, as I want it. Now, a lot of services can cater to that, but they also have the rights to certain things. When you don't have, full rights to do certain stuff, you have to do it in a way that you're legally allowed to do it. So that's why the screen's a lot darker. That's why you can barely hear it, and they're talking over it because it's I forgot what the ruling was, but it's like doing reviews and commentary kind of thing. So that's just how it has to be done. If you want to watch this whole full thing, then you know what? Start it and watch the movie off to the side on your own thing and listen to them do it. Kevin Smith and Chris Jericho have done commentary to movies that they've loved, and it's only in audio. You have to get their podcasts in order to do it. They were doing Bad News Bears. They did Pulp Fiction, and I think they got another one that's coming up soon. But they just tell you, all right, we're at the starting credits. You see this logo. We'll pause it right here. Now, 3, 2, 1, play. Yep. And then you can watch the movie, listen to their thing, and get the commentary.
I listen to a lot of wrestling podcasts that do the watch-alongs where like, go go on the network and watch the 2004 this or that, and you just go along with it same way.
There you
And
go.
but I never once complained. I also don't watch along with it. I listen to it because I like to hear the audio.
Yeah.
That's what I liked about that. I could listen to the audio of that thing, and it would have been fine. There was no lulls. It was very funny, and it was something different. It was fun to see them try something different. I'm loving the fact that people are trying new things. What I'm hating is radio now. I work for a radio station part time, but I haven't worked since this happened. They're actually going to set me up so next week I can start going on live from my house again and start doing that. But I hate that these morning shows that used to be fun are all think they're serious news people now. And it's like, that's not what I want. I don't want the silly fart guy in the morning to tell me that, how to take care of my hands. I want you to still be silly fart guy. I want the laughs in the morning.
Right.
Like, Anthony switched. They kind of went with the times, but still stayed who they were and true. But these people that now, all these comedians and jokers that think they're kings and presidents now telling what to do. I just want you to make fart noises and do dumb shit.
Are you seeing that? I haven't seen a lot of comedians doing serious news stuff like that.
I'm not, maybe not at a good comedian level, but like
I've seen all of them now. All of a sudden, Instagram story. At sometimes at night, you look and I go, "There's 15 different people right now live Instagram story," and I'm getting alerts. Oh, they brought this person onto the video with them. It's just.
Well, they're real bad at it too. All the people that are trying to podcast now for the first time is brutal. Not that you're saying, hey, you got the time to learn new things. I get it. But to be upset that people aren't listening or whatever, and you don't even know what you're doing, and just you're not even going to keep doing it afterwards. But a lot of the comedians are trying to now also tell you how the quarantine works, or tell you how to catch COVID, how you don't catch COVID. It's like, you don't know shit. You tell dick jokes. Just like, you're getting the same info we're getting. I don't want that's what I'm kind of saying. Like, they become pretty preachy because they're missing that time in front of people. So they think now their words are important.
See, I haven't had that experience. I haven't seen that. I'm not doubting it, but I haven't seen that. I mean, I follow a lot of comics, but I still see people doing commentary on what's going on, but it's not preaching like how you should be living your life. And again, not doubting it. I just haven't seen it. Like Tim Dillon stuff has been hilarious.
Well, he's been that way all the way through, and he's stepped it up. I can't, if I'm in a bad mood, I can't listen to Tim Dillon right now because he'll take me down. Here's the scariest scenario humanly possible. Like, and he was talking about when he was talking about going to arenas, and pretty soon, if you want to go to a concert, they're gonna be zapping you with lasers to get your temperature. And if you're 99.9, they're just gonna kill you on the spot. And it was just like the darkest, deepest scenario. He's hilarious when he does it, but if I'm not in the right mood, I'm like, all right, dude, take a walk.
Yeah, he's gone very dystopian, which is hilarious, but I can see that you need to be in the right mindset for that. He did that video about, because I hate that we're all in this together thing, because it started out as some kind of I don't want to say corporate moniker, but somebody came up with it, and then everybody ran with it. We're all in this together, whether it was like the CDC or some medical group that whatever. I'm tired of that shit. Because majority of the time, nobody's in this together, right? When this whole thing started, you had a lot of people figuring out Zoom, and then they were all doing Zoom, not like what you're doing, but I'm saying like, oh, let's set up a party thing, and we'll all do karaoke, or all have a happy hour, or we'll get all the family together. And that went, I think, strong for about the first 2 weeks, maybe going into the beginning of April. Then after that, I'm not seeing many invites to subscribe to the house party app where we can all play games together. I'm not seeing a whole lot of that anymore. I saw it all through March, but we're in April. I think everyone's just tired of. It's like going to see your family all the time. It's like, I don't want to call them. I didn't want to call them. Now I don't want to video call them. I'll check in with them once a week. It's kind of calmed down. The whole all together thing, and then.
Have you seen any of the comedy shows, like where comedians are now trying to do stand up with it?
No, I refuse to.
It's bad.
I refuse to, and I give credit where it's due. A lot of the comics that I either worked with for years or admire and work with now, Aaron Berg, Bobby Kelly, have all been pretty vocal about. I think Big J too, about not doing comedy online. And they're like, no, we're not doing this. And Aaron even said, he's like, I'm not even working on material right now. Like, he's living his life. He's hanging out. Like, if you follow his social media, he's hanging out with his daughter. He's down with his family, and I think in Delaware. And he's out golfing, which is hilarious. Now, I don't believe that no comic is not working on material because they're always writing something down and working. But going through the process of like, I need to get another 5 minutes, another 10 minutes, another 20 minutes, all that might be a bit more relaxed because of all of this, but they're not going online to do these things. Look, I tried to like that comedy benefit that they did online a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
where I understand where I understand where the money was going and who was helping support all the wait staff and younger comics that weren't making any money now because of all of this, but it just was bad. You know, it's not done as a proper telethon kind of thing, and that was the one where Bert Kreischer got a lot of heat for messing up talking to Adam Sandler, where he was calling him Happy Madison. And he's like, "I love your movie, Happy Madison." Like he was in the right area, but he was getting the names wrong, which was fine. But that whole thing is just it was uncomfortable, and it was not in the right setting for comics. Not that these people wouldn't have been funny if they were doing like remember Comic Relief,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
American version, not the British version, but the American version had Robin Williams, Billy
Whoopi
Crystal,
Goldberg. Billy
Whoopi
Crystal, yeah.
Goldberg. Now, one out of the three is funny, but they still were doing enough that you found it entertaining because they were also in front of a
Who's the
live
one you
audience.
find funny?
It doesn't matter.
No, I wonder. I
Nope.
think it's a good question for people. It tells you a lot about a human because I also think one of the three are funny. But I'd like to know who do
I'm
you
not
think's
answering
funny?
because I'm going to leave it to your imagination for you to determine who you think is funny.
I go Whoopi Goldberg is the only one I find funny. Not now Whoopi, then Whoopi. I don't
Right.
find her funny now. Then I can't see you being a Billy Crystal person, but I can see you being a Robin Williams person.
I'll narrow it down for you. You're correct. I am not a Billy Crystal person.
All right, good. You're
Never
Robin
been a Billy
Williams.
Crystal person.
It's Robin Williams. I can tell.
Who knows?
You can't live in New York and like Whoopi, I don't think. So
I don't know. But the point being is that you do something like that, it's in front of an audience. Even though it's live TV, you have the audience to play off of and do all of these things. And that's the setting. It's like watching wrestling without the audience. They're still doing it. It's just doesn't have the same impact without the audience reacting to the energy of what's going on.
Well, what they're doing now is reinventing themselves and taking new chances and making different kind of movies and shooting things in certain ways, which I wish instead of all these morons trying to blow up stand-up shows, because you're seeing the biggest one, local clubs and smaller comics are all trying to put on these god-awful things as well, these Zoom shows. It's like, stop trying to do the same thing. This is the time to reinvent. This is the time to try to do news. There is probably a way to do it, but try that. Don't just try to do the same shit that you weren't even good at before, but now trying to do it not in front of people. Right. Try to find a new way to do it. Like in wrestling, WrestleMania with the awesome Undertaker AJ match. I love the way they shot that. Firefly Funhouse was fun. I'm not saying it was the greatest thing, but I really dug it.
I think it was the greatest thing for WrestleMania this year.
Oh, it was for WrestleMania. I'm saying as a wrestling fan, I'm
hilarious.
Like, different, but I loved it. It was loved to watch Cena take all the shits on himself. I love that.
That one. Number two, we're going to do a little wrestling fan moment here.
Oh, I do it all the time. So you can.
For the second, I know, but I'm saying we'll do from here and move on from that. When he came out in the NWO gear to the music and he's playing the belt like a guitar, like Hollywood Hogan and everything, all I kept thinking is if they ever bring back NWO with a younger generation, he has to be a part of that. If he could play the new Hogan in the NWO, you want to talk about running in the next era, that would do it.
It was rumored several years ago too. So it was funny. I listened to Eric Bischoff's podcast and he tweeted out it was the best. He said, I was fired in October and I'm part of the main event of WrestleMania in April.
Yeah.
It's hilarious that he was on there, but yeah, all the digs they took, it really shined that way. They're going to be doing different matches of that style now with the Money in the Bank. The fact that they're going to be going up the building and fighting through the building to get to it. It might be stupid and corny, but I think if it's done right, it's still fun and interesting to watch. I've gotten used to watching the wrestlers not have people in the audience now. I like what AEW is doing better, having the actual other wrestlers around the ring to give you need some kind of talking and voice there.
Like a lumberjack style situation.
Right, but even if they're not getting involved, the fact that they're sitting there and getting to be their personalities in the audience and trying to put it over in that regard as well. Just no one out there and them talking. I just hate some of them don't know how to do it. Some of them are coming out and working to the audience still. There's no one there. Stop jawing to the side. Stop trying to get the crowd to clap during a tag match. There's no one out there. So learn what you're doing. Same thing with the comics. Adjust. It can still work, but you can't do it that way. I don't know if they're going to find a way to do it where I know a guy who books the shows at Mohegan Sun. He's putting on comedy shows now where you can buy $10 tickets to going to the Zoom club and pay and watch that. And I'm like, that can't be good. It can't be worth $10 watching New England comedians tell jokes as you sit there. And yeah, you can see the whole audience, but your mics are off except for when you're like, you want to laugh, I guess. But that's awkward. You need that connection.
I'm curious. It'll be interesting to see when all this is said and done that these online comedy things, like you just said, this Zoom club thing, if it actually made any money, if it actually benefited these comics during this time. Like, we could say what we think about it now, but if it turns out like the actual stats on it is like people were watching it, people were going there to do it. Now it's just comedy in a different form. May not be a form that we like, but it's comedy in a different form. Was this actually a smart idea? I don't think it is, but who knows? You know, when we come out of all this stuff, you're going to hear all these stats and situations. You're like, really? That was going on, or we were doing it that way? And then you hear how much money it was making or how much money it lost. I don't know. I've seen that, and I've seen an increase in uh, things online for comedy schools, like stand-up comedy schools. And I'm not a comedian, but I've been around it for so many years. I don't know if I think that's a good, like, learning stand-up in a school. People could argue and say, oh, it's just like anything. You go and you learn. It's like, but I've heard all the really good comics say that it takes years to learn this stuff. You have to just go and keep doing it, stand up there, and you learn by doing, you learn by watching, not learning in a classroom situation where someone's teaching you mic presence, mic handling and your presence on there and how to pace yourself. And that all just seemed to be, that was just advice you would get from comics who would actually talk to you or took an interest in you. And that's
Right.
how you learned how to do all of this stuff, not go to a school and do it.
Comedy school is good for the person who's too afraid or too lazy to get off their own ass and find out where open mics are. That's all it's for. I've run 2 different comedy clubs. I was asked to, part of my job was to teach comedy school. And the first thing I said to all the students was, I don't believe in comedy school. At the end of the day, you will learn how to not embarrass yourself at an open mic, but you need to go to open mics. I will not teach you how to be funny. I'll teach you how to the right etiquette. What maybe help a lot of people don't understand how to make something funny that's only funny to their friends and make it universal. I'll give them cookie cutter ways of formulas to figure things out, find punchlines. I'll never help them create a joke, find a joke. And even right now, there's an opera house in Connecticut that's asked me to do a workshop for them. I'm doing it for free because I'm enjoying just writing stuff with people, but I've got people from 70 to 17 years old interested in comedy. And it's just fun chatting with people that have that fire and energy that I'm missing right now because I haven't performed since March 14th. And that's been a weird thing to not be on. That's the longest I've ever gone in 12 years.
Right.
So it's been fun. But to charge them and turn around, I know clubs that run things and they charge you $500. Then they put you on a graduation show. You got to bring 20 people. They pay $20 a head, and they make all this money. And then they have you come back for a master's workshop to do more, to do another show. You're spending thousands of bucks when you don't need to spend a dime. You could just show up to an open mic, sign up, and you're on stage. I think if you're afraid to just show up, like I got tricked into it. A buddy of mine brought me to a place and signed me up for a contest I didn't know I was in. That was my first time. I won the contest and went on from there and found open mics. But I didn't have the wherewithal to know where to go or what to do. And some people don't, so I get it. They only know the comedy school. But if they go there and think they're going to be funny, they fail real quick. If they go there and just go, okay, I know where to go now. Now it's on me to do all the work. That's the only reason why I think they're any good.
Right. Yeah, that whole mentality of I'll go there and they'll teach me how to write a joke and how to do all those things. You have to come up with the premise. People can help you structure it, I guess, after you have it and like, maybe try this or maybe word it this way. But going there and learning it in a classroom setting where it's just like, well, this is how you write a joke. There's your joke. Doesn't really work like that.
No, not even close. And you can find out right away who's creative, who's not, and it's a lot. I mean, yeah, it takes a long time just to suck. I'll plug my book now, but the book I wrote called "How Not to Suck at Comedy." That's why I called it that. It's not going to make you good. It's just going to make you not suck because it's going to answer every question once you're already doing comedy. I would never tell anyone who's never did comedy to read that book because it would make no sense. You've had to have some stage time. You've had to do some things to get it. When I'm working with these people now, all I do is like, hey, tell me the story that you tell all your friends. So I say, hey, tell us that funny story, Jim. They tell the story, then I give them the basis of going, here's how you turn that story. into a joke, because the middle part's the best part in a story, but in a joke, it's the punchline. You got to move that. You've got to make me understand who this person, that person is. Half that shit you said makes no sense to the joke. Pull it out. I don't tell them what to do. I just give them the ideas of how to edit it, and then I make them do it like 30 times. Like we do it every other week. 2 weeks from now, they've already edited it 6 times. They're going to tell me the joke now, and we'll see how it progressed. And they learn how to do it. Now, they will never use this stuff, but they're learning how to do that. I just give them the way of looking at it as a comic, not as a fan anymore.
I'm curious now. I'm looking this up. When we're talking about the comedy schools and what have you, of course there is. Of course there is. I was looking up. I'm like, that masterclass website?
Oh, yeah. Steve Martin has one.
No, but is it an official masterclass?
Steve Martin's is, yeah. Masterclass.
Okay. Well, is he teaching? Yeah, he does teach comedy.
See the gut?
Right. But I say, whoops.
Do I breasts?
I'm playing this by
nice.
Whoops, sorry about that. Yeah, Judd Apatow does a comedy masterclass.
Yep. Yes, he does.
How much is it?
And did you watch his stand-up special?
$180.
Did you watch his stand-up special when it came out like a couple years ago on Netflix?
I think I did.
Literally, he was doing things that 3-year comics who were barely off being open mics were doing. Like, who here watches Netflix? Like, you would never in your special ask the audience, who here likes candy? Like, it was such amateur shit. And I mean, obviously he's a great comedic mind, but just to think that because he got big could just do that, because a long time ago he did do stand-up and abandoned it.
Right.
It's ridiculous that he thought he could put out a special and then it'd be received well.
See, I don't mind. I'm looking at this thing. I don't mind it being from Steve Martin. I don't, because there's a guy who's done it forever, And
he didn't do stand up forever. He did stand up and left at his peak.
Yeah.
Now he came back a long time, but for the longest time he stopped doing. Stand up has changed so much. The world has changed how you deliver.
Stand up. That's the thing. His isn't saying how to be great at stand up. His is how to be is a comedy thing. Comedy.
It's just what, like a comedic actor?
It just says how to be funny, a comedy class with Steve Martin.
Just put arrows on your head and just run around and play the banjo.
But I don't mind that, because he's been through, like you said, he left at the height of his career. He's done the stand-up. He's done sketch comedy. He's done comedic movies. He's done writing. He's done all of these things. I don't mind it from him. Like a young comic is not going to go to Steve Martin to go.
That's what I'm saying. And the people that are buying that, though, are young guys. You're not going to learn from Steve. Go to a fucking open mic. Go ask the guy just above you. If you're brand new, talk to the kid who's hosting shows. That's who you should be learning from. You need to take that baby step. If you're middling, you should be hanging around the headline. Go watch comedy. If you can't right now, watch specials, but then also read books on it, listen to podcasts that do it. But to sit there and pay $180 so Judd Apatow could tell you how to, on a wing and a prayer, write a good sitcom that gets, one good season out of it.
Heavy language, relax.
What?
Heavy language, wing and a prayer.
Sorry, didn't mean it. The old Freaks and Geeks show, and then spin that into some decent movies. But I don't know. I think most of his movies are a little overrated. That's just my cup of tea. But he to sit there and teach me stand up now and pay $100, that's insane. And actually, that's cheap though compared to you go to the New York, like the Broadway Comedy Club and those comedy schools. That's $300, $400, $500 for like 10 classes.
I don't know.
It's insane. And they pay it.
I'll quote Marge Simpson. It just seems like a mistake to me. It just seems like that's not the way you go about it. Like if people were getting into radio, they would go to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
I did it years and years ago.
Okay. Yeah. I don't shit on that too much because it's actually smarter to go to that than it is to go to college for communications degree and all that. If you go to more of a trade school, because you're learning immediately what you need to know, the software, the technology, whatever, they teach you all that. They don't teach you the work technique. They don't teach you the personality to be on the radio or, doing programming and all that stuff. But you get the basics of where this will get me in the door to do this stuff. And then you grow within the industry and figure out who you are. I don't mind that. The comedy school doesn't seem to be the same kind of technical training to get into comedy.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Most people that I know that did comedy school aren't doing comedy now. Most people I've probably taught a total of like 50 people. I think 3 of them are doing comedy now. And anyone that did it, I said afterwards, please go to open mics, find me. I'll go to mics with you. I'll help you, ease into being a comic, but most of them wanted to do the school, wanted to do the big graduation show so all their friends could come out, take videos, clap, and then that was it. They want to just say they did comedy. Most people that do that stuff don't want to be comics.
Right.
The ones that want to be comics don't do that. Same thing with radio. I think I went to it because I was listening to Howard Stern a lot when the commercials were on. I was just about to have my first kid, and I was like, I don't know, I kind of want to try this. I went there. Next thing I know, I'm interning at a radio station where they're having me like hand out T-shirts at the Yukon Huskies games. I'm never going near a studio. I'm never learning anything technical. They just put me in promotions with no thoughts of it. I'm like, you know what? Forget it. So I started doing some internet radio, then just gave up on it for years and years after that, and went and probably did stand-up comedy. I think like 6-7 years after that. But I don't remember one thing I learned from it. I know I can still go to my Connecticut School of Broadcasting in Connecticut and use their studio because you're a lifer and you can use it. But why would I do that? I didn't learn a thing.
Now, we've talked compound technical stuff. We've talked wrestling. We've talked comedy school stuff. I don't think anybody really wanted to hear any of that. I'm sure you've written down some stuff you actually wanted to talk about. So let's go and see what some of the things you actually wanted to talk about.
Look at you managing. See, you are the podcast manager. You are amazing at that. No, I had some. You're wrong. You don't think people are doing the podcast world and all that stuff. They don't talk about those things. They like to hear the technical shit. They like to hear the complaining part. The people that complain like to hear that their complaints are being taken. This is where they like to learn it. The wrestling people, I'm where the loser that has questions goes to. And they have these questions, and they like that stuff. So what am I going to do? I'm going to start here and go, hey, what was it like to be on Opie and Anthony when they called you names? I'm not doing that to you. You're too smart for that shit. That's what every other show does. I'm not doing that. That's dumb stuff. I'd rather ask you the stuff that I care about me. It's called my show. These are my questions for you.
Yeah, but I know you had some bullet points at least written down.
Oh, I have pages of bullet points written down.
And we haven't touched on any of them. So I want to see what you wrote down, and let's see.
Well, no, we did touch 2 of them, but I wanted to do that. But the most important top question right on top of the board, right there.
Right.
Pickles or olives?
Why can't you have both?
No. You only get chosen. I let you go on the goddamn Whoopi Goldberg, Billy Crystal thing. No. Pickles or olives. You get one choice, and then if you choose, and then we got to go into what kind more.
Okay.
Because I was not a pickle or olive person.
It's good because it depends. I was going to say it depends on what kind of pickle and what kind of olive. But if
okay, let's go there. What's the go-to olive?
Go-to olive for me is usually the Spanish olives with the pimento in it. Like I like those. The queen size olives, or even the cracked Sicilian olives with the pits in them still.
I don't like anything the pits. I can't do the pits.
In the green area of the olives is for me. I'm not a big fan of Kalamata olives, and I'll only eat black olives if I can't take them out of Mexican food. If they're already in there, then I got to deal with it. Otherwise, I do not like black olives.
They're only good with me if they're in a salad, and if they're already there. I'm not putting them in the salad, but if they're in the salad, there's some feta. I need to have feta near it because it kind of balances the weird taste. So I can put the fork of feta into the black olive, and then it makes the taste okay. But if not, yeah, black olives.
See, if my salad had feta or black olives, I'd return it. And say absolutely not.
No feta?
No, I'm not a fan of that either. Feta, again, is another cheese, is another thing that has to be mixed in with other stuff already, or else I won't eat it. So if there's black olives in a salad, I'll pick them all out. If there's feta in there, I send it back. It's like, no, not for me.
Just be gone. Because it tastes it. It touches everything. All right.
So go back to your initial thing, pickles and olives. I would go more pickles than olives, and I love garlic sour pickles. I used to love kosher dills, but not everybody who makes a kosher dill does it the same way. Some are good, some are just kind of not half sours. What's the point? Unless you're at a Jewish deli and that's the only thing sitting on the table before the food comes out, then I'll eat it. But there's no point in doing that. Bread and butter pickles. I know a lot of people hate them. I like them. My grandmother used to eat them, so I'm okay with them. I don't go to them, but I have no problem with them. Garlic sour dill pickles are my go-to.
Like a heavy garlic taste, or just a hint of garlic.
A heavy sour pickle.
I don't like that. I don't like heavy garlic. I like a hint of it with the pickle, but I can't know I had garlic after.
When I was growing up on Long Island, there used to be a place I think it was in Farmingdale. They had a pickle farm, and you get to go there, and it was this big old kind of barn looking place. And they had their fields in the back there where they were growing their cucumbers, but you walk in there and there were just barrels of pickles, and you would go and you'd pick out, get a bag of stuff and you'd pick out your own pickles. They had old fashioned hard candies, like the ones from the 30s or even like the prospector age. You're getting the black licorice, you're getting the hard cherry and the lemon drops and all. So you're getting that, and then you're just walking around this barn just picking every kind of pickled anything that they had on your own. I miss that, but I get it's a health concern, and people today are idiots when it comes to being healthy and keeping things clean. So I understand things got to be packaged, but man, if you go and they had the barrel,
The giant barrel with water in it, and the pickle
and
just floating.
You open the lid, and it just looks like there's pickles floating in milk.
Yeah.
Then that's the heavy sour garlic pickles. Those are the ones I go for.
Yeah, but you're right. Especially now, the day of the open barrel garlic pickle is gone. The day of the buffet is gone. I'm gonna miss the buffet. The buffet's dead, and I love a buffet. I love just not even eating tons of food.
I didn't even think of that.
Oh, the buffet's dead.
We've been talking for a long time that the handshake is dead, which is great because I know who likes a handshake. But I never thought about, like, salad bars have been almost an extinct thing for the longest time. There's very few places that have salad bars. And I used to love salad bars as a kid, but I get why, because people are disgusting and they don't clean up.
Well, as a kid, you love it because it's the only time you're allowed to get up at a restaurant. Usually your parents are like, stay here, don't go to the bathroom twice, whatever. But you could go to the salad bar 8 times and just keep getting the same dumb croutons. It doesn't matter just because you're getting up. But yeah, now if you're going to have a salad bar, if you're going to have a buffet, it's going to have to go back to the old Vegas style where someone's serving you each thing. And you're not going to be able to take your own 85,000 mussels and then heaps of mac and cheese and whatever you want. You're going to feel like you're not going to allow to feel like a gross piece of shit. You're going to have to sit there and be like, please, can I have a little bit of this or a little bit of that? And no, and the shit buffets, the Chinese buffet, aren't going to have the employees all out there. They're going to be shut down. They're done.
Yeah. Well, it's either that. Yeah, they're not going to have the buffets on the floor where you go and pick what you want. They're probably going to do what you just said there, where it's all being served. So instead of having your counter here for the desserts, your beverages, and then checkout, on the line there, and all the foods on those floating islands in the restaurant, they're probably just going to have to be a big U shape where all the stuff is served on the outside and you sit down and dine on the inside.
Or they just give you like a Cheesecake Factory size menu with little pictures, and then you have to have them go get it for you. Like they're little pea pods, and they're gonna run there and get it. But I don't want that. I want to get up 80 times. I want to have dessert second, and then steak right after for no reason, and then crab rangoon. I like the idea of having dumb shit. Now here at home, we've been making meals that don't make sense. Just to have, like, I had brisket with ravioli and tacos the other day. Just to have 3 things I wanted on my plate that just didn't make sense together. Just to have that feel. It's not about eating a ton. It's about not being told what's grouped.
I got to ask you a quick question because I've noticed the light changing in your room. Is that do you have a window near you that?
Yeah, I didn't close the blinds
because I'm seeing the lines from the blinds move steadily up your body there, so the sun is setting.
That'd be better if I said no. No, you're having a stroke right now. I'm fine. I don't know what you're talking about.
This is some weird condition.
Is New York? Are you noticed? I see your pictures and stuff like that. Is it weird to be in New York with not like? I'm certain there are people out there, but way less than there was. You used to be walking through seas of people to go to work every day. Is it creepy?
I don't know. I haven't been in Manhattan in over a month.
Oh, you haven't? Like, I saw some pictures you were putting. It was like about a month ago.
That was at the tail end. Like the quarantine went into effect on the 12th, and I think on the 16th is when I started staying home. So I was there for like within that beginning time of when the quarantine was happening. Those were when I was taking the photos coming out of Penn Station near Madison Square Garden and the Empire State Building and Macy's and 6th and 7th Avenue, big tourist area. And it was just nothing.
So you're doing everything from home right now.
Oh, everything. The last day I was in the city, there were no people. Very few people, I'll say. Not no people, very few people. There were cops on every other corner, right? The amount of homeless people that showed up out of nowhere. They were camped out on the corporate parks areas of Madison Square Garden above Penn Station. They were camped out there. They were camped out all over the entrances to Penn Station. And then when you walk down there, it was like walking. No, I can't say that because that would be get in a lot of trouble. It was like walking through a minefield, I'll say. where they were just sitting all over the place, and you're kind of like walking around this way, doing, dodging all of them while this was going on, because they're just camped there. It became a refugee place for homeless people, and every one of them is trying to hit you up for something as you're trying to get through to get to the trains. It's not just like one or two here and there asking they're down on their luck or whatever they're doing. They're all there. This became the shelter. And you just walk in and you go, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep walking in and out of this train station because I can't get through this. Because not only it's not just people bugging you for wanting stuff, but when you're wearing masks and all, and the stuff's going around, it's like all these people may have it. I can't be near all these people.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust a homeless mask.
Yeah,
it's not going to be clean. They're not clean. They're not washing their hands and nothing else.
Yeah, and this was the beginning of the whole thing going on, so nobody was doing the full masks and gloves yet. And I was just getting creeped out. I was like, I can't keep coming in. I can't do this. So yeah, I'm doing everything from my place.
That's got to be okay at first, but frustrating because you're a hands-on person, right? In a lot of ways.
Yeah,
it's like,
but I've had this place built up over the years. So I'm doing the TV show and I'm doing the radio show all from here. So I have the whole setup and everything patched to different networks so that I can continue doing all this stuff. And then all the compound operations I do through here, where I can connect to Anthony's out in Long Island. I can connect to the compound in the city, and everything that needs to be done, I can do it from here.
Are you finding it easier for you guys to get guests on all your shows now that everyone's home, or is it weird because a lot of people don't have things to plug?
Well, it's I haven't hit that because
most stand-ups are like, hey, I'm going to be at this place, and that they're nowhere. But they have podcasts and things.
Stand-ups have been great. We've been booking Anthony's show kind of like comfort food, trying to get a lot of people that make sense rather than taking new bookings on there that make sense to the audience, familiar faces, people that they enjoy seeing on the show all the time, bringing those guys on because, like you said, comics aren't doing a whole hell of a lot, but they like doing podcasting. They can talk. They can have conversations. They're perfect for radio and doing these kind of things. So that's where we've been increasing the guest booking for more of the people.
It is strange to Skype in, though. I enjoyed it actually at the end, watching myself again, going, right. Oh, I liked how it worked more being on there through the Skype because I had to take my time. When you and I talked about that, of like almost like double dutching in and out to make sure I got in better. But it is hard for some comics not to be there live in the studio.
Yeah, but for anybody, it's timing because the internet streaming, you could be talking, and then if I tried to interject, like if we were in studio, you would hear me and the audience would hear me. But on this kind of thing, like I think maybe it happened once or twice earlier in this, where you were saying something, I went to chime in, and then I realized step back because you were still talking, you didn't hear me. It's figuring all of that out. Once you get that down, then everything is pretty easy. And having the comics back on all the shows. I mean, look at In Hot Water. Aaron's been down in Delaware for almost a month, and he Skypes in full time for his show and doesn't miss a beat. Like, they make it work.
Oh, without doubt. And, well, like I was talking about that show before, I love about that show is how much Garrett and Steve have become such a huge part where it's a four of them. They're hilarious.
Say too, I've noticed, they were good on the show in the past, but I've seen how great they've been, Garrett and Steve, for In Hot Water during this quarantine, filling in and all the weird little side gags and inside jokes that they don't explain, and them playing characters and riffing off everything. They've gotten to be really good with that whole thing, which I think only makes them better when we do all come back to do our shows live again in the studio. Where
their audience has become so loyal. It's such an inside club. Like a lot of them will talk to me on there because I love watching it in the morning. There's one guy I'll go back and forth with on Twitter. He'll write good morning, whatever, and we write back and forth. They're having coffees or we're watching the show. But yeah, they do inside jokes where they don't explain it. They get on board. You'll get it eventually, and you'll learn how to do it. But I would think it was weird for like some of them that are coming, like Gino's in there every day, Aaron being away. I thought that'd be a weird thing, but it flows. They got it. It's like,
they do that. And then the show after them with Bill and Joanne. Bill's in studio and Joanne's not. And
she's not in there when they do it?
No, she hasn't been in the studio since I think the quarantine officially started. She just said, I'm going to Skype in. And it worked.
That's a show I only watch if I know like Gino or someone I know is going to be on.
For some of the hosts that are in Manhattan, they live there. It's easy to get there, so we can still operate like that. Pat Dixon, Michael Malice, I think that's it. Because all the other shows have been Skyping in to do their stuff because everybody doesn't live in Manhattan, so it's just easier to do it that way and pretty much more efficient. So I mean, we can still look. We're still up and running. A lot of other places, if they're only doing audio, it's easier for them because they can record anywhere and just send it in, whether it's quality is good or not, or the context, whatever, conversations are good or not. We can still operate live and pre-record. A lot of our stuff we had to switch from live to pre-record just so that the guys that are in the city, they're not there all day because we used to have shifts of people
Right.
take over the morning shift, the afternoon shift, whatever, and we can't do that right now. So we jammed everything into pre-records and stuff during the day so that you still get everything. You're getting all the stuff that you want. They may not be live, but that was the plan that we had put into play where it's like, what if we can't do any of these shows live because who knew? Like maybe the internet service got so bogged down because everybody's streaming and everybody's doing all the stuff that we have to pre-record everything and then upload it later. We had that in, as a fail-safe, but unfortunately we're just doing half and half. So you still get some live shows during the day and then you get the rest of them are all pre-recorded, but out at their regular time.
So when do you think, if you had to guess without any, you don't have any of the knowledge, when do you think we'll get back to normal? When do you think they'll allow people into New York, guests to come back in, like everybody could be in the studio? You have to make a guess.
Dude, I don't know. That's for the tri-state area right now. They're saying May 15th.
Right, which schools aren't going to happen. They're saying that my kids are in school. They're not going to go back to school in September. I think they're just giving us hope by saying these dates and keep moving them.
I don't know about September. They may go back to school in September. September is not unreasonable at this point.
Right, no, I'm saying that could be it, but they're not going to go back with a couple weeks left. They got used.
No, not at all.
My kids are actually loving this more. I mean, first week it was weird, but now going to school online, doing the classes, they're not in class with.
We're in Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know how they're doing in Connecticut, but in New Jersey and New York, the school years are done. They're still doing their stuff online, but going back into the school is canceled.
Our governor announced that he's hoping for May 20th to go back. Just last week, he still said that he's still holding to May 20th.
Right. So then you don't know what the summer is pretty much going to be a while. Maybe the beaches, if they allow people to go back to the beaches as part of this, but the boardwalk industry, restaurants and stuff around the beaches may actually do well. But a lot of the summer stuff is so dead in the water. Even if they open, like the cruise line's going to be dead for a long time because they were in the front runner of the forefront of all of this, where people were isolated on the boats at some point for a month because of all of this stuff. The cruise lines are going to have a hell of a time trying to get back into operation because the PR around it is so bad because of this virus thing. Disney World and Universal Studios, people will go to those places, but I don't think they're going to get the numbers that they used to get, especially during the summer when everyone's off from school and everyone would travel down there to go. They're going to take a while. Everything's going to take a long time to get back. It's going to be almost a year before we start seeing things leveling off and being better again. And then if all this bullshit that they're trying to scare everybody with that, it's going to be back in the fall. It's going to be back in the winter. It's like, we can't live 3 months out of the year being okay in the summer to go out and do what we want. And then we have to hunker down for the other 9 months.
Why not? Teachers do it. That's a teacher's life. You get 3 months off, then you go back to hating life for 9 months. That's what they do. Okay, so the important question, leading to the thing, it's all about me. Do I have to shoot another pilot in a year? Is that what has to happen? Because everything's going to be forgotten in a year. Because like my co-host is going to be dead. Frank will be dead. He's 78 years old. He's worried about doing it one more time. I'm like, I don't know how you're going to pull it. I have to find another old man, and I don't want fucking Barry Rib. I got to find someone else to be old on a couch.
No. Well, I mean, look, when we started the pilot stuff, we were getting a feel for what was out there. Friends of the network, like you, Dave Temple, Karen Margolis,
creepy corner people.
Yeah, the creepy corner
Sue,
people.
Karen.
Yeah, so we're like, all right, let's try these out. We knew this new app system was coming, the new video system was coming, and the new financial system was coming. But there were contracts in place. So when this one was done, like, we have to wait for this one and have to wait for this one. So that's why it's like, well, let's test this out and put some new content out there. It gets people a feel for these guys, so they're not showing up out of the blue.
Right.
And eventually we're going to look to expand to doing some more stuff with Compound. But all of this, I'll just say the year from September when we started to now, that year, not a technical year, but
Right.
that year span, nobody saw this coming.
No,
Right?
not at all.
Nobody saw this coming. The financial company we were dealing with, we were supposed to have been done with them before the end of last year, but because of things, it got pushed to 2020, and that was the last hang up on all of this stuff. So our time frame was this, but then because of a third party, they were messing things up, and it was just, there's nothing we could do about it. We want to do more with the pilot stuff. We want to do more with testing out other shows and maybe bring a couple more to the network. But look, we're running on a minimal budget as it is because of
everything that's happening,
everything that's going on. It's not that we can't afford anything, not that the network's in trouble. We have no subscribers. We've seen, actually, Keith's probably going to get mad I say this, but we've seen a lot of growth since the new apps and everything coming out. I'm like, we were really impressed about how well it's going. But we got to be conservative with it and spread this out, because we're working from different places. We just got to keep things moving and make sure everything's working and fix everything that needs to be fixed before we can look at expanding again. And unfortunately, that's not our doing because of this current situation.
My friends have made jokes. They'd be like, "Hey Pat, when are you going to hear about it?" I'm like, to be honest, they're working on this app thing, all this stuff, and when they say when that's done, they'll start making decisions. And then the week before the app comes out, it's like quarantine the world.
Yeah,
so,
I know, and
it's hilarious
because everybody else has been asking, like, when can I do another test show? When can I do this? When are we gonna? And everyone thinks like I'm just bullshitting them. And it's like, no, this is really what's going on. I don't have another answer for you because we're trying to move this stuff as fast as we could. And then the quarantine stuff's coming up and we're like, oh, well, this isn't going to be too bad. And then all of a sudden, like on Anthony's show, you can find the episode where I'm just giving Anthony updates, where every few minutes I'm giving him the most ridiculous updates. And Ant's like, this can't be true. And then it turns out to be true. I'm like, hey, Ant, NCAA just canceled March Madness.
Yeah, there was that day everything just got canceled.
What? No, they did. I'm like, no, they did. They were going to do it without an audience, remember? They were going to just have the games without the audience and still play. I'm like, no, they canceled that. And we were arguing, like, no, Vegas isn't going to put up with this. There's a lot of sports betting around the March Madness. It didn't happen. Hey, Ant, the NHL just shut down. What? I'm like, yeah, the NBA just shut down too. Wait, Major League Baseball just closed. What? Like, you could see within 2 days, you just saw all the announcements we kept making as they were happening. One day I'm going to go back to that and just laugh at how ridiculous it seems.
It almost seemed fake. It's like,
it is. It seems like a bad April Fool's Day joke, but this was the case. It's like, iHeart, not iHeart. Who's the major promotion company for concerts? Live Nation.
Live Nation, yeah.
Live Nation. Live Nation just canceled all their concerts around the world. What? Yeah. There's no more concerts.
We're just done.
We don't know about the Olympics. The Olympics, we only found out 2 weeks ago that they're postponing it.
The Olympics and WrestleMania held off the longest. They were the two that wait.
And we were like, well, can the Olympics be done without the audience? Which they could, but it was in Japan, one of the epicenters for all of this. If it was in somewhere else, like if it was down in Australia where they have some cases, but not as bad as the rest of the world, or somewhere in South America, maybe you could have got away with it.
Yeah, but you couldn't fly in people from every country. There's some gross-ass countries. You can't fly them in. You can tell them they can't be in it now. There's no way they could do that.
You have those power washers, and you just design them like the proton packs. So as soon as they get off the train, you have your Ghostbuster style. You're just full.
You just prison shower the shit out of them. That's what you do. Yeah. No, I believe me, the second this happened, I knew there'd be a wait on all this stuff, because even if they were just like, okay, we could go with it, you can't nurture a new show through Zoom, through Skype. We need to be in there. We need to learn everything that's going on and learn it that way. It wouldn't feel right. It'd be dumb to put it out that way. It has to be built in that regard. But you have been amazing helping me, even giving me notes with this pod. I'm so thankful that you have no time giving me notes to help me even make this podcast sound better, work better, and try to push it. I'm trying to put more shows out, trying to learn this more, because it was such a great experience to even do the pilot. And I'm just thankful to get a chance to do that. And it was cool cool to sit in the big boy chair and look over and there's Garrett and he's listening to me instead of me being the side guy. It was just a really cool experience. So
And I look
it.
behind the scenes for Pat was saying, like, I was getting him notes. All I did was kept sending him that clip of Homer saying, "Be more funny."
Yes.
That's all I had to do.
But you did it once in Spanish and once in French, so it helped a lot. I was like a Rosetta
Those
Stone.
don't get the copyright strikes on YouTube, so you just go with whatever clip you can find.
No, you have been quite helpful, and I'm really thankful for that. That was a cool prop you just did by hitting yourself with the mic.
No, I didn't hit myself with the mic. I hit it, and then it popped. Because
I thought that was the universe hitting you for not giving me a compliment.
No. That was just my stupidity. I will say this, though. If you want to, since you got this set up, and I know, Zoom's not the most ideal situation, but it's what everybody's using right now. I mean, when all the late night talk shows have defaulted to this, pretty much it's the standard right now. So if you wanted to shoot another version of your show for that, I'll put it up on the system for you if you want to do it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I would definitely try it, but I'd want you to look at it first. You're going to go, wait, that's garbage. I want to really work on that, but yeah, definitely.
I'll tell you it's garbage now, and now that you know that, you can improve on that.
Thank you. Look at you with a foresight. And listen, you can say all you want. You did the notes you even gave me for just the fact that you said the show seemed pretty professional for the first time doing it. That was thankful to you telling me, hey, be yourself was a huge thing you told me. Stop overthinking it. Even though I wanted to use your idea for having 3 Italian comics that are all the same person and shitting on them. Yeah. I still want to go to that someday. I still want to do that show.
You should. That would be really funny to see. It's like all these comics like, oh, I'm doing this. They all do Italian humor, and they all do the same Italian humor. Get 3 different guys from 3 different parts of the country all doing the same jokes.
Oh, 3 different parts of New Jersey. That's what I want. Just 3 different parts. 3 different Vic DiMatteos, but not Vic DiMattedo. It's like just them all the underlings of him hoping to also get bread and milk. Is that what I wanted on there?
I was there's an Italian comic. I was traveling around. I found, no surprise, I like sandwiches. And I found a sandwich place. I was like, oh, I haven't heard of that place before. I'll stop in there. It's a little hole in the wall. See what that is. And I'm looking in the place, and there's a line for the sandwiches, and I'm looking around, and I'm seeing all these celebrity photos on the wall. I go, what the fuck? This isn't like Carnegie or something, or Katz's. Why is there all these celebrity photos? And I see it's all with the same guy. And then I notice, excuse me, that the guy owns this sandwich place. And he happened to be there that day. He's not there all the time, but he happened to be there that day. And I never talked to him, never introduced myself or told him who I was. But I was looking at all the stuff, and then I hear him talking to the, when old Italian guys come to a place, it's like going to a black barbershop. That's where everybody goes to shoot the shit, right? So they're all off to outside, having a cigarette or whatever, their espressos, and they're sitting there drinking and then just shooting the shit, yelling at everybody. And turns out the guy's a comic, right? And I'm like, he says what his comedian name is. And I'm like, I'm going to look him up. And it was exactly what I thought. He's up there. He's got index cards for jokes, which is fine. I know, he's been doing it for a few years, but he's not at that level where he's doing it all the time. It's more of a recreational thing. But when he's doing all his jokes and his button, like, come on, what the fuck? I'm like, if we do that Italian thing, we got to book that guy.
How was the sandwich?
It was okay.
His comedy and his sandwich is terrible. You'd think he'd be good at one.
It was all right. I found better places that I go to. Like anytime I drive around in different towns, if I see a sandwich place, I'd rather go there than like Burger King or McDonald's or any of those things. I look for the delis and like local restaurant kind of places to go to. And when you see a sandwich shop, it's like, oh, cool. I'll go in there and see.
I was like that with buffets, sadly, for a while. I really was. I'd find a different kind of, I was the same way testing it out. I wish you saw that guy in the back.
There's nothing wrong with a good buffet.
No,
nothing wrong.
It saddens me now that they're going to be gone. I'm just only talking about it. It hurts. It's like an ex-girlfriend. It's not a good thing.
I mean, we saw the writing on the wall when even the last bastion of a salad bar, Ruby Tuesdays, which is not a good restaurant.
No.
And usually they were attached to malls. So if you didn't want to deal with a food court, you would duck into a Ruby Tuesdays. And they still had somewhat of a salad bar. It was like a small salad bar, but you were still excited to see it. Like, you know what? I'm still going to get the salad bar with my meal. And you go up there and do it. Even when they got rid of their salad bar, it was like, this is never coming back. And now because of this and what you just told me, yeah, they're definitely never coming back. And that's sad.
The last comedy show I got to do, March 14th, was in a place called Greene, New York, way upper state, almost Canada. And it was at a restaurant called the Silo Restaurant. The guy owns his whole farm and field.
Was it in an actual silo?
There was a silo on the premises, but the restaurant wasn't a silo.
Gotcha.
He's growing most of his own stuff. There was a comedy show with buffet and salad bar that's constantly going. It was my last comedy show, my last buffet, my last salad bar, all in the same day.
This place.
Yeah, a single tear like a Native American just flew down my face.
This brings up an interesting thing then, because then I want to talk. We're running. I don't know how long.
So we're gonna do this, then we're gonna close out. So
okay. When you go to a place, a restaurant, and they have the product on the premises for when you're dining at the restaurant, but they also have, like you said, that salad bar place, but they were growing all their own vegetables and stuff on the location, right? So everything's on location. Does that seem weird to you? Like if you go to if you're in Pennsylvania or in Ohio and you stop at some of those, the buffets that are in Amish country, right? There's, what's the big one? Shady Maple out in, not Allentown, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Huge complex, huge. And like you could fit a couple thousand people in there, and they have like one side is a whole hot bar, cold bar, salad bars, grill bar, all those things there. And then on the other side is all the same thing because there's that many people, right? But they have the cattle and they have the vegetables and they have everything on the farmland where that thing is. Is that a little unsettling to you? One of my favorite places was up when we used to have a place up in Lake Winnipesaukee up in New Hampshire. There was a place, where was our cabin? Lacona, right near Weirs Beach, which is a pretty famous area. A little further down the road, there was a place called Hart's Turkey Farm. Delicious place. But you're eating, and you know there's pens out there where all those fucking turkeys are.
You're eating the guy out there.
Yeah, you're eating that. Isn't that weird?
No, when you go to a lobster place, you can pick it out of the tank. I'd rather know it's right there. It's roaming. It's close. Not that I'm someone that wants to. I don't hunt or kill things, but I like the fact that it's like it was in your backyard. Because I never think about where it came from before. Right. But like if you go to a regular restaurant, that food, like if I'm in Wisconsin and I'm having lobster, I'm like, where the hell did you get this? Like, you know what I mean? Like there's certain things like I like to know I'm right next to the ocean, or there's a turkey right there, or when I was married, my father-in-law and I used to go to this farm once a year, and he knew a guy who owned it, and you would basically pick the cow. You wouldn't point to the cow itself, but you'd go there, they would cut it up right in front of you, and you'd call the cuts of meat you want, and you put it right in the freezer. Like you're literally getting it off the farm. That was your cow for the year. Right. Of all the foods you would get. And to me, that was like the coolest thing ever. Just going, I can just walk downstairs and get a steak, get a pot roast, get whatever, and ground beef and all that. And I liked the fact that I was just, yep, that's mine, picking them out, throwing them in the house.
All right. You know what? That makes a fair point then, because when I'm down in Maryland and you know, you're at some of those great crab places, outside of the Baltimore area, and you're sitting there and you see either the boats pull up to the dock and they're pulling the crates and the nets out and stuff or whatever. You don't think twice about that. I'm like, oh, cool. It's fresh. It's right there. You're fine. But sitting at that turkey farm place where you're eating and you look out the window and you know they're out there just running around. That's what seemed a little off-putting. Or if you were at
shouldn't be right. It shouldn't be like an aquarium. You shouldn't look out and see them at you. Yeah. You shouldn't hear them either. Driving in, you should see them frolicking, but once you're eating, you shouldn't see them. No,
like if you had a fancy steakhouse, but it was also on a property that had cattle grazing, you know, you'd be like sitting out there. I'm like, oh, look at all those cows up there. Oh, they're going to be this tomorrow. Oh, this is a bit off-putting.
Yeah, it'd be like if you could eat the steak, but then not sit there with its family. You know, you're just there. Right. There's its kids. You want the veal? Okay, there's Junior right there. So,
hey, Pat, before we go, was there anything else on your sheet that we didn't cover?
Not really. I mean, we covered almost everything. No. I complained to you about my show. I talked to you about New York. The only thing I was going to ask you was, I'm sure you've been asked this a million times. I'm sure you have favorite guests, but who's the one famous person from all the radio you've done, everything, whatever, that you were just so disappointed when you met them? They don't even have to be like an asshole. They could just be disappointing, like, oh, they're not fun, they're not this, they weren't what I thought they'd be, they weren't as hot as I thought was a woman, or whatever. What was the one that was a letdown?
I'll split it into two based on what you just said. One who was disappointing and one who was an asshole. Okay. I'll go with the asshole one, William Defoe.
Yeah, but I feel like he'd be an asshole.
William Defoe was such an asshole. We had him on. He was promoting an independent movie. He was doing a movie with Mick Foley, actually.
Ooh. What movie
And
was that? I've never heard of that
I
movie.
don't remember. You have to look it up. It was somewhere in between 2006 and 2008 when it was the free FM period when we were doing O&A. He came in. We had everything. We're talking to him and we're trying to ease him in like we do. Hey, what's going on? And he kept trying to jump in with the plug for the movie. And Ope had to say at one point, it's like, we're going to plug the movie. Don't worry. We're going to get to all this stuff. It's like, we're just going through the motions to talk. And he just kept like derailing everything. And then we were trying to go and we, get O&A, get their photos and everything like that. He was like, all right, guys, I got to go. It's like, you don't really have anywhere to go because nobody's letting you promote this movie.
Because
it was
not a big movie. You're with Mick fucking Foley. You probably have no other guests appear. If you do, it's some stupid call-in.
I'm not shitting on Mick Foley at all because he was on, I think, a few days before that, and we love Mick. Mick's a great guest. But he was just being such an asshole about it. I'm like, come on, dude. What is your problem? Why? Whatever. And then, like, nobody else from O&A thinks he was an asshole. I thought he was an asshole just because of the way he was.
But you probably had to deal with him on a different level than they had to deal with.
Well, I was in studio with them.
Right.
I was on the board right next to where Ope was sitting, and so I'm running. If you watch the old Howard Stern show where Howard would sit, I was on the fretboard, so I'm doing all that stuff, right? And I'm just watching the whole thing. Like, he just can't fucking not try to, like, you could tell he was trying to get the fuck out of the studio as fast as possible because I'm sure he felt like this was beneath him. But dude, when you're doing these kind of movies, you got to do what you got to do.
Jimmy Walker's the biggest asshole I ever met, but that's just, I think people know that.
They've had some run-ins with Jimmy.
He won't make, you can't make eye contact. You can't mention the word dynamite. He talks down to people. He's very upset if you think about old Jimmy, but what else are you going to think about? He's famous for that thing. Get over it. Embrace it, But who was the disappointing one?
Disappointing one. I think for me personally, I can't speak for the show. I'll have to think further for overall the show. But disappointing for me personally was Steve Coogan. Do you know who he is?
I know. I mean, I've heard the name. He's an actor,
Steve
right?
Coogan, legendary British comedian and comic actor. Very famous for the character Alan Partridge.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So he's done a lot of different movies and whatever. And he came in. He was very reserved. I was very excited because I loved Alan Partridge. And he was kind of reserved. But then I guess he has some kind of tie-in with Courtney Love and maybe Kurt Cobain dying or so. I forgot what exactly it was. I have to go back to the audio and listen to it. But it was sort of off limits to talk about. And then I guess blurted it right out and he just kind of shut down and what have you. And then it was just a completely different thing for the rest of the time. He was awkward. He wouldn't talk. Then it just became really disappointing. Because I love the guy. I was just like, oh my God, Steve.
But he wasn't disappointing like as a human. It's just that his one thing that triggered him, you hit without meaning to, and he just shut down. It wasn't a fun interview.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That as a human,
like someone like they came in, you're like, oh, I didn't realize they were going to be. Did they seem fun? Or this person seems crazy. Like I would think that, not that I like him at all, but I would think Rob Gronkowski is disappointing as a human. I think like you're like, oh, he's a football player, does that, but like he would, if he really was that over the top Jersey Shore type moron, I couldn't handle that nonstop.
Yeah, I never met Rob, but I have seen him. Our friend DJ Who Kid used to hang out with him because he's friends with Mojo Rawley.
Yeah, Mojo. I hate Mojo more than anything in the world. The least talented wrestler there is. But
Mojo, yeah, I was gonna say he was a wrestler with the WWE, but he's that bro party kind of dude. That the guy that you could hit him with anything, and that it only hulks him up even more to go crazy. So it was him and Mojo, and so it was Mojo and Gronkowski and a couple other people, and Who Kid were on a yacht going to WrestleMania down in Miami. Like that was their party yacht coming from the Bahamas or whatever. And Who Kid was just saying, he's like, those guys were fucking crazy. Like they were just.
It's crazy. That era of them, LMFAO, things that partied all day and night, it ended, but somehow Gronk is still allowed to just be it. He's like the one thing that's like.
Wasn't it weird when he showed up at WrestleMania? Like they made him the host. I get it. He's a big name and they needed that for everything going on. But then when they had him win the 24/7 championship, I hate that belt to begin with. I hate that whole concept.
I agree 100%.
I'm not a fan of it.
R-Truth did a great job with it. He helped promote things. He got people that weren't watching wrestling to look and see it exists, but it was awful.
100%. And that gave him something to do. Like, I think he's very funny. When he was doing Little Jimmy a few years ago, the invisible guy that didn't exist for going into I forgot what WrestleMania was, like 29 or something like that. In New York, like that was hilarious. When you give him a gimmick to go, it doesn't matter if he has a belt, it doesn't matter if he wins or loses. That's what really makes a lot of money and makes a wrestler very important is when they can deliver on those kind of things. And then they squash him for a while. And then he had the belt thing again where he's going back. He was hilarious with the belt. And then him and Carmella, and then they squashed that again. And then they put it on Rob. And like, he just seems like a douche.
Yeah, they were trying to actually sign him to a thing where they were hoping he could do some wrestling too, but now it looks like he's gonna play football again anyway. So I guess he's gonna go hang out with Tom Brady in Tampa. Erik, thank you for taking your couple hours you had to hang out with me today. I do appreciate it.
No
Anything you want to promote, push, whatever?
Yeah, my show on Compound Media called Would You Kindly with Brian Johnson. You may know him from AMC's Comic Book Men, the Tell 'em Steve Dave podcast, the movies that he was in with Kevin Smith. Him and I do a show together on the network. You can find us there, compoundmedia.com. Also, I do a radio show on iHeartRadio called It's Erik Nagel. You can find all that information at itseriknagel.com. And social media, eRock Radio across the board on all the platforms, except Snapchat and TikTok, because who gives a fuck about those?
Yeah, fuck them. All
yeah.
Right. Erik, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
No problem, Pat. Thank you for having me.